Hello everybody and good afternoon. This is Zipping okay, I'm sure that is some of you know me, Doug Wills, managing editor of which means this is my home, quite literally, 24/7, but this is where I work, and we're very privileged that we have our guests attendants from the audience, and even more of us who are without the same name. So Tana. Last year we did a similar event, and it picked up remarkable following, as you would expect. And I wasn't sure whether the organisation would come together because I rather left things a little late. And with Elizabeth in charge, of course, it does come together. And the theme is obviously leadership, and particularly with the theme on leadership and the mentoring. And I think all those are personified in Elizabeth herself and the people she chooses. So today, I'm going to hopefully learn a little, and I know that everybody here will be entertained as well as appreciate a few of the lessons that we can all pick up on. And I think in media, we have, but perhaps I'm a little different in my views from others, but I think we've led in media, and others need to follow. But we'll hear more about that this afternoon. So if I can now hand over to the professionals, and I will sit and so thank you.
Thank you very much, Nina. I'm Tim Wilcox. I did this last year as well, and it all went quite smoothly, but more from me in a minute. I just wanted to introduce you, first of all, to Elizabeth, including you, Doug, as mentioned, but everyone will know that here, just to explain what this whole global conversation is about.
Thank you. So thank you very much. I'm here to learn from you guys and greeting everyone in this room, but also from all around the panelists in 8 countries, women from 5 continents. So all of us are here to learn from each other. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, welcome today. This is the second Athena40 global conversation, as I mentioned. For us, it's a very important moment. We launched Athena40 2 years ago on International Women's Day 2018 at UNESCO in Paris. The whole idea has been to try and bring to the forefront women who are less recognized, not less excellent. They are incredible women, as all of you in this room are, and of course gentlemen as well, and see how we can give them more access to networks. So I'm Elizabeth, I'm the founder of Global Thinkers Forum at Athena40. It's an organization that was incubated 9 years ago at the University of Oxford. And we launched in 2012 in Jordan. Amman is one of the cities hosting a panel today, and with the patronage of Green Run. The whole idea has been to promote accountability in leadership. So for us, it is very important to have you in this room because, first of all, we have some incredible partners like Leading Standard. And Doug, I wish to thank you for your sustained support, which has been tremendous. You make this event happen here in London. And team, I would like to ask, if you like, for your continued support because we have events coming up and April is going to be another important year. So thank you so much, and thank you all 68 speakers across those cities. Venues, production, logistics, I mean, all these different cities have their own nitty-gritty, but everything has been managed centrally from a very small team. And I think this shows the power, if you like, of passion, dedication, and professionalism, and the things that small teams can achieve when they have the passion to move the world. And I'm very proud of that team. So inspiring, unique, formidable, that was what the event last year was called. And so we thought, okay, we need to engage more people. Let's invite more cities to join. And this year we have added California, Joburg, Beirut, Karachi, and 2 panels here in London. The whole idea is to empower women. But how do we empower women? We empower women by embracing them, by listening to them, by giving them the opportunity to be heard. We empower women through knowledge. We empower women by teaching them, inspiring them, and supporting them in discovering themselves, mentoring them, sponsoring them. We empower women through recognition by shining a light on their efforts and achievements. And we also need to empower women by changing the system. This system, that economic model, and of course you will hear more about from the experts about that, is not allowing women to enter, if you like, this economic development. We are being excluded. Athena40 launched as the first list in history that identified some of the world's most forward-thinking women. The idea is that we bring women to create grassroots change, like we're doing with Global Thinkers Forum and Athena40, side by side with women of massive strength. So at that stage, I would like to ask if we can play the video, the animation video that explains a bit to you what the Athena40 concept is about.
To highlight the qualities of entrepreneurial thinking and inspire women to value and embrace them. By entrepreneurial thinking, we mean being open, curious, and not afraid to fail. Every 2 years, Athena40 identifies the 40 most dynamic, active, and fearless female minds across all industries and from all around the world. Athena40 stands for these principles that we also invite you to embrace. We commit to enabling women to contribute to outcomes. We promote understanding as the best, if not the only way forward. We promote partnerships and ideas exchange among women, and we include men in the conversation. We fight cliches and tribalism. They raise walls of segregation. We reject labels and stereotypes. We embrace diversity as a continuous source of talent and knowledge. We strive tirelessly for freedom of thought and expression. Our language speaks the truth. We stand for values-based decision-making and against any form of polarization. We believe that entrepreneurial thinking equals liberative thought, creative decision-making, and results. As such, we want all women to think like entrepreneurs. We commit to mentor and support other women of all ages and backgrounds. Athena40 is the first ever global ranking of the top 40 most visionary women who are born to push their limits, fly high, speak up, and open new paths for all of us. Let's create new things together. Let's create a global movement. At Athena on Athena40.org.
So Athena40 is not a power list, it is a role model list. Women that are nominated by the public over a period of 12 months, and that was the case in 2019. And then 58 judges from all over the world, covering all industries, backgrounds, and ages, they will decide, and they have decided on the 120 who have been shortlisted, and among them, the 40 most influential ones. So 120 incredible women. And that is the list that will be renewed every 2 years. So the process will start again at the end of 2020. 2021, we will be looking for the new list. Some of those women are sitting with us on this panel today, but all of you and all of us are exceptional. So just to finish and hand over to Tim, I would like to say that in April, on the 23rd of April, we're hosting the Athena40 Forum. So an international gathering that will see some women and men from around the world discussing the case for female leadership, but also women leading the way. Check Athena40forum.com. You will see some of the speakers' names there as well as the agenda. And then in the evening, we are celebrating the excellence of the female excellence, if you like, at the event. So over to you, team, without further ado. Thank you very much, everyone.
Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back if you were here last year. As Elizabeth was saying, it was a really interesting debate last year. I thought some very sort of powerful, some provocative questions, some stimulating answers. Do women get the benefits that they deserve in our global world now? And as Doug was saying, in the media world, I've been at the BBC quite a long time, and the BBC actually does do pretty well. It's done something called a 50-50 program now, not only for on-air presentation and reporting, but also the fact that our guests now, in terms of programs, we keep track of how many females and how many men are being represented. And even though that sometimes might sound a bit clumsy, it is a way of making sure that there is female representation on air. Last year, touch wood, Guinness luck, we had a huge technical success as well. And 7 cities around the world being linked up to us is no mean feat, even for people in the television business. You see the problems we have sometimes. But we have the same high school female production team this year, and I'm sure nothing will go wrong. So I was just thinking, I've been chatting for the last 10 days or so, and I was flying back over the weekend. I was just wondering, what has changed for women around the world over the past 12 years? Here in the UK, we no longer have a female Prime Minister, of course. Finland does, though, Sam Marin at 34, the youngest Prime Minister in the world. We have a female Home Secretary, I think still. We have a female Home Secretary. Professor Thunberg was nominated again over the past year for the Nobel Peace Prize. She didn't get it again, despite being the biggest favourite. Here in Britain also, Gina Miller, Baroness Hale stand their influence on the political strategy that we saw around Brexit. Fortunately, that all seems to have been resolved. Christine Lagarde, Nancy Pelosi have also been joined in the global Uber Club by the new European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen. Now, I've only got a few seconds left, I think, before we go to our panelists around the world, 7 cities. Let me just introduce you to them. I think we can start with the Montessori group here in London. Let's see if we can get to them first of all. Now, that is chaired by Leonor Skipich, the award-winning social entrepreneur and chief executive of the Montessori group. Leonor, can you hear me? Just introduce us to your panel, if you would, please. Right, Leonor. Do you have any others? Let me just shout out. Beirut. So you're a bit of Beirut, can you hear me? I'm going to go through the list and then I'm going to tell you jokes. Okay, can you hear me? Joburg. Is there any way we can just contact them and tell them to unmute? Maybe they're all shouting at the moment, should be done here. Who's that? I'm going to keep on going around the world. Who's speaking?
Our the local township schools they don't have. So maybe everyone who's sitting here, maybe you can just try and help out to see how we can actually help.
So that will be just interrupt you. I think I'm talking to you from the Solutions.
One student try to shift their mindset to say that you don't have to, when you finish school, you don't have to go and say good morning, boss. You can be your own boss.
So can we try and connect to Leonor? Because I see that Leonor is ready. Can you hear us, Leonor?
Which country is that?
She's just down the road.
Good London, right? Yeah.
I think he's just off mic. Leno, can you hear me? Let's see if we can just raise your level here a moment.
Doing that. In the tires, you do that.
Can you? Okay. Leno, just talk me through your panel.
Okay, so our panel is starting at the far end. We have Hannah Bailey, who is a lecturer here at the Montessori Centre International, has worked in Hong Kong and in India and in Turkey, mostly with refugees and children from five areas. Then we have Karina Robinson from Robinson Canberra. Karina is CEO of an organisation Robinson Canberra that actually provides all advisory services and advice to peers and chefs. Then we have Barbara is Montessori, as far as the world Montessori community is concerned. She has trained teachers across the world, she's written books, and she's our global ambassador working on social impact. Then we have Leslie King Lewis. Leslie is here within the leadership chart that works, it's an organisation that works with leaders, helping support them, giving them opportunities to learn from each other, and run some very successful programs that themselves.
Eleanor, that's fantastic. We heard you very clearly. You've got 50 minutes with your panel now to go through some of those key issues that we were discussing a day or two ago. Do our societies need more women leaders? Why? And what progress has been achieved in the past year regarding women in leadership? We will come back to you in 50 minutes with your conclusions. Thank you very much. Let's see where we can go now. Okay, Beirut, lovely. The Lebanese American University, chaired by Miriam Spear, Director of the Arab Institute of Women, focused on gender and human rights in the Arab world. Miriam, can you hear me? And if so, would you just talk us through briefly your panel there as well, please?
This is Pakistan. It's a good afternoon from Beirut. Miriam already opened the session with her speech. I'm very pleased and honored to be part of this, the second global conversation making for this continuing leadership. This is Hayat Mashad, and I have the pleasure of being moderating today's panel among innovative and inspirational countries. I will make a round introduction on the speakers who will be having with us Dr. Edith Carolan, also Ms. Rosa. Also we will have Ms. Rosa Butler, Ms. Joel Al-Farhad, and Ms. Rana Bandu. I will read the introduction and we will then start now the discussion. So I think that in the first round, we will have two questions and we'll be opening the floor later on for interaction. So Dr. Edith is the Vice President for Student Development and Enrollment Management and the Lebanese American University at EU, and also a most importantly, she is an advocate for gender equality and equity. First of all, I would like to ask you as a woman.
Well, actually, Miriam, thank you very much indeed. We're going to leave you to have that debate now, because we've got to get through to a few other panels as well. We'll be back to you in about 3/4 of an hour. Thank you very much. And I think we can go to Amman, yes? Istanbul, British Chamber of Commerce. Amman, Tim Wright, are you there, Tim? I can, that's great. Just quickly whiz through your panel, and then we'll let you get on with the debate.
Right, thank you. Istanbul, the private room, all recognized women on these and Istanbul. Then starting further my left work on it was the founder of the Turkish Women's International Network of Turkish Women. And next to her was Julian Slater, who is the British Minister General here in Istanbul, and also the Trade Commissioner for Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Next one, we have Athena40, who's the founder of Technology and Future Cultures. And finally, Linda Island, who is the chairwoman of YGH, Young Business on Board, and also International.
All right, so that's fantastic. Good luck, and we'll hear you from your conclusions in about 45 minutes or so as well. We can now go to Amman, India, chaired by Mary Nazal, barrister, social entrepreneur, named one of Forbes magazine's most powerful Arab women. Mary, I hope you can hear me. Just talk us through your panel quickly.
Can you hear us?
We can. That's perfect. What a fantastic studio. Yeah, okay. Fire away with your panel.
Great. So, hi from Amman. We're very excited to be broadcasting live from the capital of Jordan. We have a phenomenal and diverse panel with us today. We have Her Excellency Halatu, Her Excellency Haitham Najjar, Her Excellency Wafat Bani Mustafa, and Her Excellency Nadia Saeed, and of course, Ms. Tina Abu Jalal. We'll get started soon.
You have Excellency. That's it. Now we go to Johannesburg, and we have Yolanda Mabuza, from Greece. Yolanda, good to see you. Talk us through your group, please.
All right, we do have a moderator in Johannesburg. It's not Yolanda. And hello to everyone. I can't say good afternoon because it is afternoon in Johannesburg, but I see that it's morning and evening in other parts of the world. And thank you so much for the opportunity to connect with you. On our panel, we do have Yolanda Mabucho, who is founder of Divine, and our host today. We also have Roxana Mudan, who is an international business executive mindset coach. But some of us need just a mind shift to tap into our potential, and she's going to be helping us with all of that. And Ms. Lauti Bugami, who is CEO of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South African International Forum, and former BRICS chairperson on agriculture working women group, and founder of Leading Ladies of Africa. And we also have Annie Delaney, who is head of Women Presidents Organization South Africa. She's founder and chair of division of Crossroads Company and head of the Women Presidents Organization in South Africa, which is a WPO. And we also, she also focuses in June 2019. She chaired the Women Advantage TWA in South Africa and founded the Women in Business Accelerator. And we also have men in our midst, Mr. Johnny Muteba, who's founder at Africa Trade Organization, Pan African Chamber of Commerce, and African Entrepreneurship Fund, and Pan African TV Television. And we also have Mr. Ivan Skip, who is an events director from Spin Intelligent, some of the events are African Utility Week and Future Energy Shows. And these are shows and exhibitions that assist Africans on access of energy and operating from East and West Africa. And that's our panel for this afternoon. And of course, we have a great audience here in Johannesburg. And just by count of three, I'd like them to just shout top of their voices that you know there are 100 things here. 1, 2, 3.
That's quite a challenge. We'll come back to it. Thank you very much. And then finally, Karachi, Zabist University Ambassador Atia Mahmood. I hope you can hear me, and if you would just quickly go through your panel, and then we can get started here. Thank you. Yes, we can.
So, this evening, the books are very distinguished Pakistani women, and I'd like to introduce them to you. Ms. Latifah Shah is a politician and currently an MLA, member of the National Assembly, and a spokesperson for the party as well. We have Mrs. Shahnaz Wazir, she is president of Zabist, where we are having this chair. She's a women's rights activist and the founding member of Women's Action Forum. And we have Mrs. Mandy Rahman, the CEO of Alphala Investment Management Limited. We have Dr. Amina Bakai, she is an associate dean at the IBA University in Karachi, and she's also an electronic journalist and has also indulges into diplomacy. We have Maria Dayalani, she is a young advocate, and she is working as associate director of the Women Aid Society. We have Madam Manaz Rahman with us, she is the executive director of Audit Foundation. So over to you, and we look forward to having a really good discussion in Karachi.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So we're going to let them get on. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to introduce you to our panel here, because we're going to do everything at the same time as our other panels around the world. We have Vicky Boone, who is the CEO of Inspiring Girls International.
Yes.
Elizabeth Gully, who we know, of course. Next to her, we have Shamin Sadi, who is the I'm so sorry, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, who is Joanna Kalitanyi, who is the High Commissioner for Rwanda. Next to her, Shamin Sadi, which is novelist and filmmaker. Then we have Paula Diana, entrepreneur and advocate for women's rights. And last but not least, Vicky Price, the author of Women versus Capitalism. I want this, we're going to have some questions in a few minutes' time, but I just really wanted to start by asking all of you, given the sort of legislation representation of women, given the fact that it is such a strong topic of debate, it has been for the last decade or so, hasn't the battle been won?
No, I don't think the battle has been won. I think that it's easy for people to assume that it has been, and I think generally the reaction to movements such as the Me Too, I'm sure we'll go on to discuss that a bit more, the reaction to that can make it feel a little bit like those battles are no longer something that women should be talking about, and indeed girls. But the work I do at Inspiring Girls International, we work with girls with between the ages of 10 to 15, and let me tell you, oh sorry, although my voice is probably loud enough.
We can all
probably fine. It's acting training. The girls that we work with, and we work with girls not just in the UK, but we work with girls across 15 countries internationally, and the battles are very clearly not won. Girls are, wherever we go in the world, there is a set of challenges that face girls of that age. One is a drop in confidence. There was a report done by the Girl Guides just last year, which showed that there was a 30% drop in confidence in girls between the ages of 8 to 14. So there's a marked drop in confidence. Those gender stereotypes still persist, both real and in their perceptions, particularly in certain in areas such as STEM subjects, that's science, technology, maths and engineering, where girls simply feel that those subjects are just for boys. And that's actually been said to us, and that's not something that happened 5 years ago or 10 years ago. This is stuff that's happening today in countries around the world. So I'm sure I know there's a lot of people to get around, but
okay, that's just an opening question. We'll come to how we resolve this. But Yamina, if I come to you, with your hat on, you have been based in Kigali for many years before you came here. You've been in the UK 4 years, you were telling me earlier on. What is the situation for girls, for women in Rwanda at the moment in terms of their education, in terms of their job prospects, the access they get to the work they would like?
Thank you. Well, for Rwanda, Rwanda is one of the countries that has approved, that has made great inroad in terms of opening access for women. We have 61% in parliament, 50% in cabinet, equal numbers of young girls in STEM studies. But I will have to agree, the battle is never won. It's scratching the surface. You have the women in power, you have women in businesses, but when you speak with them and you realize the amount of challenges they're still faced in just getting on and doing their work, that battle, in my view, will never be won.
And in terms of political representation, how was that brought about? How were more women encouraged to go into politics?
So for us, it came from a very sad story, the '94 genocide in Rwanda. And I remember the president, right after the genocide, said it would be nonsensical to ignore 52% of the population. So it had to be a strategic and political decision to say, whatever men can do, women probably could do, if not better. But it was just demystifying the fact that a woman would not fit in a given position. But having said that, I always challenge everyone who looks at this field that it's when you double click on the problem, then you realize it is a long-term exercise for women and girls to really fit in. And for here, I would say, it is not a woman challenge, it's a human challenge. Until and unless we all realize that each one of us has got to play a role, for mothers with young boys, for teachers in schools, for parents. Because I always say, the confidence that we all gain starts in the home. Because you can probably handle life better if at home you have that confidence that it builds, whether you're a young girl or a young boy. How do you pick STEM skills if your father tells you that you just have to get to 18 and get married? So I think that the challenge are cultural as well, but it is one of those. It's like health. You can never be healthy forever. You need to continue building on what you're doing for you to get better.
Okay, lots of interesting ideas to pick up on there. Vicky Price, on the business review report just a few months ago said that women scored higher than men in most leadership skills. Where are we with women's representations, chief financial officers, chief executives in banking and systems?
Well, almost nowhere really. There is now one chief executive who is, they have been becoming boards or something there, for example, the chairwoman here in the UK. Yes, and also chairwoman of some of there, who was a British person as well, so Panelist chief executive. And the Royal Bank of Scotland has finally appointed the first female head. And it's quite interesting because
sorry to interrupt. Is the mic on?
I have no idea.
Can we?
Yes.
I think this time we need to press it to go to green.
Oh, it's just green.
You think so?
No, it doesn't.
No?
I think we can hear it. Are we hearing?
So because we're live streaming on social media, it would be good to have good sound.
Okay, this one's called green. Yes.
Yeah.
That's question.
Right.
There we go.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you.
Just to make sure we can hear everyone.
Basically, declaration. So what I was saying is that we have had foreign Spanish bank that has been run by Sri Pradera is the chair of the UK operations, and Virgin who's come over, who is chief executive of some debt. So what we have also here is finally the head of the Royal Bank of Scotland, Alison Rose, who's taken over very, very recently. Of course, she had done a whole review of women entrepreneurs and how finance that was available for women. The interesting thing is that when she was appointed and then introduced her new strategy, I was reporting the Evening Standard actually, and I was still carry that information with me. I carried that particular issue, which I think was February 1st. And she announced how, I read it out, I was doing a public lecture on my book, and I read out what the reality is today. So she said she was going to have policy of inclusion and diversity, and of course she has been talking about that quite a lot. And the next paragraph announced the new leadership team because she was doing a lot of restructuring already. So I started reading out the names. It was a man, another man, another man, And then there was somebody called Ollie, and I thought, oh, Ollie, maybe that is a girl name. And just carried on after saying, and he would be responsible for it and what. So, as far as I could see, restructuring involved men. And I would guess that it isn't because she doesn't want to have them around, it's just that they're not there. They're not there in leadership roles that she can bring in to do that. And you wonder what's been happening all these years. RBS Athens is the place where I started working, I worked for 16 years, for a long time. And I've seen sort of whatever's been going on with that firm up and down and so on. But it is extraordinary that, obviously, for someone like Alistair Rose not to be able to find anyone to appoint those roles, suggests to me that very little has been done in relation to the pipeline.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Shamin, how important is it, do you think, you're a filmmaker and author, how important is it for women, girls, to see women portrayed as powerful characters? Is that something you make a real effort to do in your own work?
Totally, it is. Not at the expense of conflict and things that are wrong, but obviously in the film. But I didn't realize how important it was until we released our first films, I can't concentrate on all I've seen. They were films set in very different places, but they were about women of colour. Some of the characters were LGBTQ, and the outpouring of social media that I still get to this day, it's now 10 years since the first of this was released. Every day I get a message from somebody, from a girl or a young woman somewhere, saying that really changed my life, because it made me realize that it was possible to run my own business, to be in an LGBT relationship, to be a housewife, but also work. Whatever the issues are, those have come from people in the UK, in the States, and all across the world, particularly in the US, Pakistan, parts of Africa, and lots of feedback. And it made me realize that representation, seeing the ability that people know that storytelling can reflect other ways of being, because I think as human beings we rely on stories to kind of show us what can be, what shouldn't be, how we can change our behaviors in our lives. And I think it's incredibly important.
Okay. And Paula, is that something that you would advocate as well? Just picking up on what Vicky said before about confidence, perhaps, with girls. Girls still feel constrained through their sex, rather than the sort of ambitions that they might have in terms of their own characters and dreams.
Absolutely. It's very, very important that we keep the fight, as I call it, and we speak up more and more and more. Because especially girls, when they're teenagers, they face a lot of challenges. If you think about the pressure that social media puts on everyone, but especially girls.
Men do as well.
Yeah,
boys
exactly.
do as well. So.
Absolutely. Men actually now they're feeling a little more pressure than in the past, because social media are really incredibly fake, because they want to perpetrate this image of being, super fit, super skinny, super young, super, incredibly natural, because of course they use Photoshop anyway, so it's not natural what you see. But if you're an adult, if you have the education, you can eventually fight against this culture. But of course, our girls and our boys, they face more and more challenges than what we used to face in the past. And women in particular, they have these unrealistic models in front of them. So we have to be mothers who are always beautiful, forever young, and then we need to work and be successful and make money, and we don't have to complain. We have to do all the household stuff, because of course men, they don't like to do household stuff.
You should go see my house.
Yeah.
I've had a tour.
Okay, I can check.
I've just finished the island.
Women empowerment is really a complex issue. It's not so easy, to empower women. Women, I think, actually, they're more powerful than what they think already. But unfortunately, their voices are not heard. They weren't heard in the past. Finally, we got Harvey Weinstein in prison, and this was a great day for justice for all over the world, not only the US. But we needed to have 100 women to go against victim, and to speak up. 100 victims, and God knows how many,
Well, there's
Yeah,
going to be just a first some thoughts from you, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Let me say, sorry, 1 second. I heard the word never achieve, and I actually want to disagree because I'm a very positive. Even though I see the challenges, I always say that actually women are doing great now, and this is the good time to be born a woman. And we will definitely achieve equality. We will definitely achieve, the top positions. Maybe it will be long term. Maybe it will take other 50 years, 100 years, but we will get there. So I want to give this message.
That's great. Elizabeth, this is something which has preoccupied you for years and years and years. You set up the Little Thinkers Forum. What more needs to be done? I mean, you travel the world looking at this issue. In your view, what are the first essential things that need to be taking place over the next year or so?
Well, first of all, we need to continue these conversations. I think it's very important to continue this engagement because you asked in the beginning whether we had won the battle. Well, if we had won the battle, then it would be you guys sitting on these chairs and not us. And it wouldn't be all these women across 9 panels, 8 countries, taking the mic to express the challenges and the battles that they have to give day to day in order to do something which comes natural to most men, which is pursue their career or be the breadwinners. So, first of all, we need to continue this engagement internationally. Secondly, we need to give access to networks because we need to inspire each other, learn from each other, and also create opportunities for each other. Thirdly, we need to do something about the system. We need to make it friendlier. And that, of course, takes reform on public sector, the private sector, and more civil society engagement. Fourthly, we need to mentor women from a young age.
Come to mentoring,
Yes.
I think that's quite a big issue for all of you here. When you say change the system, what exactly do you mean by that? Because you look at the law now, say in this country and around Europe, in terms of paternity care, maternity care, there is an inequality there. And there are a lot of men out there now who are doing that sort of child rearing. If their spouse, whoever it may be, wants to pursue the career.
Yes, it's true. And it's happening all the more and very much so in some specific parts of the world. But it's not the norm. So for us at Global Thinkers Forum and Athena40, we have been trying over the years to give opportunities to women to work from home and be able to balance and juggle, really, not balance, because I don't know what this word means really and whether we ever achieve it, but to juggle family life and work and be productive and do something not only to contribute financially to the household, but also to contribute to their own productivity and fulfillment. But I think that the system, this is a question to be addressed to Vicky Price, who has recently released a book on women versus capitalism. That is the economic model that prevents us women from entering that mechanism.
Vicky, just pick up on that.
Thank you. Well, yes, the interesting thing is that there are loads and loads of obstacles that are out there right now. So you say battles getting won and for, new men around.
There's more parity.
New men around, yes. But a lot of that has happened because of government legislation. So any progress that has been made so far has been through government intervention, not because the system has necessarily changed. And when you look across the world Bank does an annual review of the countries that place obstacles on women's labour force participation. And that is a very large number. In fact, the majority of firms, I think it's just about countries. I think there are about 5 countries that don't have direct obstacles, but wherever you look, women are not allowed to do particular jobs. They're not allowed to do them without permission of their husbands. They're not all their husbands. They're not allowed to travel as far as the man. They often don't have a bank account, finance isn't available, property rights are not there. So all these things add to it. So the result of that, from an economic viewpoint, is that you don't get the right allocation of resources, and very often they also don't have access to education in the extended economy. All that creates a misallocation and encouraging countries to to have the type of sort of prosperity which is considerably lower than would otherwise be the case. So lots of calculations are made. What would happen if those obstacles disappeared? Because there's a clear market failure there. That's what it comes to. About the system, how it works, just very quickly. If you are pricing in, like with climate change, the negative and positive impact of employment of employing women, then you would have a completely different allocation towards the end of the day, because you realize you're losing that huge amount of skill out there. And if the reason market failure is the reason, then you have to intervene even more. So I'm afraid we're not there yet. There are no serious sort of penalties on firms that still have enormous pay gaps in the UK. So you report that we have no enforcement mechanism of any sort. Yes, culture is changing slowly, but that culture takes a long time to come, and obviously big firms try everything they can to attract still people and offer pressures and what have you. But the vast majority of firms do very, very good jobs.
Okay, interesting to hear from the panel in Karachi in terms of what restrictions are in terms of business like that as well. If I come back to you, you talked about genocide in '94, you talked about representation, political representation. How easy is it for women in Rwanda to set up their own businesses, to continue with further education? What sort of society is it still now, after the trauma of the genocide? Are women more empowered there, do you think, now than before?
So yes, but again, it is a process. If I look at access to finance, which is one of the barriers, traditionally women had to come up with collateral. Where do you find the collateral? Because up to 7 years ago, women did not even own land in Rwanda. That has changed.
They simply were not able to.
They were not able to own land. So the law was changed, and now they can. But again, if you look back at 25, 30, 50 years ago, what happened to the women who were in business now? How do you move forward without relying on your husband or your father to access finance? So those are the barriers that were there. And yes, we're moving in the right direction, but it is a process. It is a process that the new generation will take advantage of, because the laws are there and the ecosystem is tackling those challenges. But it's a work in progress.
Vicky, when you're inspiring young girls, how important are the role models for them, and how important is it for you to say to the girls that you're working with, actually you can contact these people? These people will reach out and give you some advice and help you fulfill the dreams. I mean, is that happening more now? Is that what we're facilitating?
Yeah, exactly. So the charity essentially is the connection point between the role models and the girls in schools. So we organise for women across a variety of sectors and across all these different countries to do school visits, to talk to girls and boys, actually. And it's very interesting to see the impact on boys and how important that is in terms of where they are going into mixed workplaces. And we provide the connection point in that way. We do it person to person, but we've also just launched an online platform, which means that we're actually putting role models into the line of sight of girls where they are, which is this online space. And I think the sort of online conversation around the impact of social media with all the challenges that brings, and I know Paola mentioned it already, huge impact. We hear a lot about the negative impact of social media on teenage girls in particular, but teenagers generally. But I think there's a huge opportunity as well in terms of bringing role models into girls' lives via social media, via these online platforms, in that is where they are, that is what they are looking at already. It's a very interesting piece of research done by an organisation called Female Lead over last year, which showed that it took a cohort of girls in the UK, a small cohort of girls, and they are, at the beginning of the research, they just did just a conversation with them about what their interests and possible career journeys might be. They took that and then they said to them, okay, here's a group of people online, of professionals who have run social media accounts, active social media accounts. We'd like you to follow them for a year. We'd like you to follow these people who are in these careers that you might to follow. And the impact was amazing. They did it over 9 months, and at the end of the 9 months, they were coming out with things like, I feel like my social media feed is less toxic, I feel more informed about the career choices that I might make, I've learned a lot about the things I might like to do. They suggest, because they're following one person, it obviously suggests who else you might follow. So they've opened up this whole other, almost like, online networking, essentially. So I think there's a really big opportunity going forward to maybe slightly shift the conversation around social media and see, like, what could we do to actually put, as Athena does so effectively, as we try to do, how do we get these role models more in the line of sight of these girls?
Okay, the problem is, Paola, that you were talking about social media. If you look through social media influencers, many female social media influencers are basically the ones who are dolled up, dressed up, redesigned, facially altered, and that is the problem. Is it not that women still perhaps who haven't gone through an education or haven't been exposed to an education are still thinking in those quite sort of binary terms. You've got to be pretty, you've got to be attractive to the other sex, and that's something which sort of takes place in families and in discussions at school and education.
I know. Thank you for this question, because I think you're touching a very sensitive point. But it's very important to understand that unfortunately women can be and are many times the worst enemies of their own gender. So we don't have to think that only men, can be bad. Even women. So we are so many, we're billions. So of course we can't think the same, all of us. I always say, that it's not enough to be a woman, you should be a feminist. And men as well should be feminist. Because it makes a shift in your mentality. So being a feminist means being free from this culture of oppression, free from these, incredible demands from our religions, from our, society, from the patriarchal culture. So when a woman is set herself free, she understands that she can be whoever she wants, no matter, what other people want from her. So if she wants to take care more of herself, fine, but she doesn't feel the urge, to be for plastic surgery or to follow the example of, Kim Kardashian, let's name one, because you were clearly eventually thinking about her or someone like her. So the most important thing for me when I try to empower women, and I've done with my book as well, Saving the World, is to just show why we are in this situation. So I talk a lot about religion as an example. There's this huge thing for women because there's a system of power or made by power. Whichever religion, they're all the same. So they all try to control women's bodies and women's minds and sexuality for women.
Okay.
So once a woman understands that, she can set herself free.
And Shamin, in your books and with your experience and people who are giving you feedback from things they've seen and what they've read, how much of this is to do with sex in terms of female, male, or whatever? And how much is this to do with actually rooting a sort of real structured character through learning, knowledge, influences and things like that, rather than taking a superficial view of things? And I'm not saying that is peculiar to either boy or girl, but there seems to be perhaps a need for a more rigorous approach, perhaps, to some of the core values about being a real human being, rather than the more superficial side of life.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you have something that's sort of superficial and says, here's some quick way to get powerful, a quick way to win, it's not an interesting story anyway. I think as humans we're interested in life is complex. We have all of these issues that we're talking about and a million more. And we need a roadmap to get through that. And I think that's why we all turn on Netflix at the end of the day, or we go out, we volunteer to see Parasite at the movies or whatever it is, because it's telling us something about the human condition. It's very true, very real. We don't have to be living in a South Korean basement to understand some of the things that those characters are going through. So for me, storytelling has that immense power to literally change lives on the dime, and over time as well. So I think it's a huge responsibility for storytellers, not to shy away from conflict, not to shy away from telling stories that are unhappy or difficult to hear, but to tell those stories. And I think what's happened in Hollywood and the storytelling community, the people who finance those stories often have traditionally been white men. Of a certain type, and they are the keepers as to what was getting made and put into film theatres.
So when we started our production company 10 years ago, what we often heard was, well, could you make one of these characters a man? Or could you make one of them straight? Or could you make one of them white? So that it was castable and therefore able to go into movie theatre. And this was said with absolutely no irony. So now the narrative has shifted due to Me Too, due to Harvey Weinstein, but also I think due to the fact that the streamers, cable TV has opened up the fact that there are millions of different niches and people are willing to watch a lot of different narratives from a lot of different places that are still universal, still humanistic in their themes. So I think it's a very exciting time from that perspective, but in terms of the system, just to pick up on that, there are still no studio heads that are not still the old guard. And I think that still needs to continue to change so that we don't just have superficial change on the business side of it as well, that we have really real solid change.
When it comes to mentoring in a minute, just Elizabeth, on that Me Too movement, how has that changed the empowerment that women feel, do you think? I mean, it's been a big debate now for 2 years, 3 years. Has it changed massively in your view or not?
Well, it definitely has given, if you like, to women the opportunity or the urge or the calling to report if they have been harassed, if they have been victims of whatever form of abuse by men. On the other hand, I've always been saying that we shouldn't allow that to go to the other extreme. And I think that what we're leaving out of this conversation is that men as well have been victims of abuse, rape, discrimination, and so we shouldn't take,
by women.
Or by everyone, by anyone.
Okay, but not that it goes to the extreme. So where do you think the extremes have emerged in the last?
So, for example, well, here it's happening in the Silicon Valley, let's say. Okay, we're talking about women entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurship and whether VCs fund women-led ventures. What I hear from my friends in Silicon Valley is that currently men VCs refuse to have a meeting, a one-on-one meeting with a woman founder because they don't want to be accused of harassment. So it has either to be in public or with the door open, and this is something that is becoming widespread.
Do you understand that fear from men? It's almost like a return to the chaperone days of 200 years ago.
Yes, but this is why we need to kind of, go against that. We need to change the narrative. We shouldn't say we want this narrative and then allow it, if you like, to be interpreted differently or wrongly.
Okay, so just sexual empowerment, sexual harassment. I mean, I think we could have a whole day talking about this. Let's look at the Rwanda we made there. Sexual harassment, sexual manipulation of women, is that an issue? And I want to come around to the rest of the panel. Sexual manipulation, harassment, bullying within the city, which has been, right, the whole language of the city is all about footsie and cuddling up and whatever, so the whole language is sexist. Let's go to Rwanda first of all.
Of course it is. I mean, we're part of society in general, so whatever happens in one region happens in the down region as well. I think the change is that women, girls, are now able to communicate that, and they have some measures to push that. They have institutions to go to. So yes, at least now we have ways to mitigate these issues. But at the same time, we don't want to push the envelope too far in a way that will create fear on men as well. I think that's a challenge that we need to talk about and think about and plan forward, because feminism can only happen if men are part and parcel of the change. How to create that balance is very much important.
Just in the city, in particular, on that point, and does it need a woman to be a powerful leader in the city or in politics to be really a tough, ballsy woman to actually compensate because they feel that they have to make that extra effort to be tougher than the other people around?
That's a very good point. I think it used to be the case, certainly. I think that's perhaps less of a requirement. I do remember some very strong women when I was growing up, with those cons, who became partners in the accounting firm I was working for, and became one too often. The culture had changed, I think, quite significantly. But There is this perception that in order to make it, you have to be like a man. And there are lots of queen bees around who treat women badly as well. They don't want anyone else to come around and because they've made it and they want to.
And the ladders are often not extended back. You know, some of those titles that I've done in my career, I've not actually done that much to help women behind.
You can find loads of examples. However, if you look at the literature across the queen bee phenomenon, that one is actually very small. They do exist, but what you find is that if you have a woman at the top or making the hiring decisions, they're more likely to hire a woman than would be the case if it had been a man. So you do have that impact, and so they do hire more women, and you get more women in senior roles. So actually, you do need them to be at the top, or you do need them to be at every level, management level, where they can have that impact. And what's happening in the UK, and certainly the financial sector is a real problem in that, is that if you look at boards, and you asked the question at the beginning, yes, you have loads of non-executive directors who are women now, 30%, we've sort of reached that with the 100. But if you look at executives on the board that are actually women or people on the board who are women, who are actually executives of the organization, let's say they're head of finance, or you find very few women there. In fact, the percentage is less than 10%. And it hasn't really moved very much at all. So we are a long way from it. And yes, there is a lot of conscious and unconscious bias. And my view has been all along that what you need is quotas for senior positions, forcing them to.
Okay, let's just quickly go around. Quotas, how do you think? We need quotas, politics, and quotas in business?
Absolutely, I'm for quotas. Because quotas are affirmative actions, and we need them. Economists and sociologists, so they studied this phenomenon a long time ago, and they found out if a minority, which is a minority, until it doesn't reach 30% in the subsidized industry, it can't be strong enough in order to sell.
Isn't that a meaning to women? Would it need to?
No, it's not, absolutely not. And it's just an effective way. As I always say to everyone when we talk about quotas, I say, if we were living in full, complete meritocracy, I would agree with you. Because women wouldn't need any quotas. We would succeed everywhere. But this is not meritocracy. This is an utopia. Society is not a meritocracy, I'm sorry. And so we have we need affirmative actions in order to have women who have paternity leave and they have other natural and biological differences. We need to help them in order to succeed in this system, because it's a system that was made by men for men.
Definitely in the film industry, definitely. I think quotas have been a huge boon. I think I'm now being invited to direct things, not everybody that I want to direct, but I'm being invited to direct things that would have been inconceivable a couple of years ago, because they already have the same directors they use season after season on TV, whatever it might be. So I think it's very, very important. Just to pick up on what you said, Elizabeth, I agree with you. You don't want to push that into fear from guys for being accused of sexual harassment. But in the film industry, for example, there are just best practices that which is not being used. Why anybody would have to get somebody's hotel room for an interview or for a meeting? It's very standard. It happens all the time because people don't want to. If you're on a set and doing a rehearsal, you don't always have the luxury of hiring a space, but it's not very difficult to do. And I think putting in line those kinds of basics, or recording auditions, or having something that is not a big ask, especially in our kind of industries where this kind of abuse has been systemic against women and young actresses who feel very disempowered when they're going up for jobs, but feeling that if they say the wrong thing, they're going to lose their career as well as lose any other future opportunities. So
I think you talked about political representation around. Are there quotas in other areas as well?
Yes, there are, and because of the quota, we can have 61% of the minimum of 30%. It's by reaching that you could double it. So I think it works, and we wouldn't go back. And that's the case in the judiciary, even in the private sector. Now we're pushing the envelope and telling the private sector, if it's working in government, certainly.
And this is enforceable by law?
By law, yes.
Okay, and the penalties for flouting that?
We haven't. The thing is, we haven't. It works. When women were given opportunities, they actually, instead of hiring one, you would hire the second one. And so we haven't had the problem of not reaching the quota. If anything, it has doubled the numbers. So I think it had to start with having a quota so that people understand that as a minimum, which then opened the door for others to have.
I'm going to jump in again. You said the downside of quotas, and I think that's always in people's minds, are you hiring the right person for the job? That can happen. But, I think that the fact that you might hire an underqualified director or underqualified once or twice in the overall scheme of what a quota improves is a small downside.
Is it that fair?
But is it opposite?
But is it fair for men as well? I mean, is it fair for men to be pitched against somebody knowing
It's
actually?
actually good for men because it helps competition. Usually, instead of mediocre men.
That reminds me of how women were 100 years ago.
Well, I think the only good thing in terms of quotas, it doesn't necessarily have to be a quota that says you have to have a woman over a man. It could be that you have a quota for senior positions over a period of time, which is what I've been recommending. So you keep your pipeline going. By the time you start looking for people, there will be women there to choose from. So what you work against is this market failure because there's no competition at those levels, and that's very wrong. And just thinking about mediocre people, I think there is a quote that I used in the book, and I forget who said it, which is that we know you will achieve gender equality when a mediocre woman runs 100 companies.
That's really good.
Not yet. Not yet. Okay. What's your view?
I share most of the views of the panel. I think I had a very similar quote which I always bear in mind about women in politics as well. Mediocre. I'm happy to have some mediocre women MPs for the counterbalances many mediocre male MPs that there are.
I think it'd be fair to say, without going into any names, I mean, politicians understand how things are presented as well, and you might occasionally end up with, not necessarily, sounds people.
Indeed, because that is politics. Politics is a very. And I was about to say I've sort of been on my own personal quota journey because I started working in politics on these issues about 12 years ago. Working within a political party at which, and at the time, the issue of quotas were incredibly contentious, and we were trying every which way other than quotas to make an impact on the number of women that were being elected. And I have to say, 12 years down the line, I am done. And I also, with another hat on, have founded an organisation called the Parliament Project, which is a non-partisan organisation open to any women who want to are interested in finding out more about standing for elected office. But I ultimately, in terms of kind of breaking that deadlock at the top and that consistent election after election, 30%, 30%, 30% of women elected, sometimes it goes to 29, occasionally it rises to 31. But, that's got to change. It's got to shift. I'm afraid the pipeline issue of politics is atrocious. So yes, I'm absolutely in favour of quotas.
Thank you. We have 1 minute left before we get to the conclusion. I want to give that to you, Elizabeth. Make your case for quotas. Make your case for how long we should pay for quotas.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that yes, I am pro quotas because I think we need to set some targets, and these targets need to be measurable. So if we can monitor and measure, this is a way to achieve change. And as Paula said, and I fully endorse your point, that this world, is not basing, if you like, its decision making on meritocracy. So when we have to battle a system that is not going to promote those who deserve it, then we have to set some targets and some figures to achieve as goals. Now, another point which I would like to make before handing over to you to connect with the other cities, because I know we're nearly there now, is
I'm getting the cutthroat sign. Make the connection. We might be speaking of Finish your point.
Just to add that I think we need to make sure that we do not create more silos. So that silo mentality is a mentality that we need to break. And of course, this conversation that is going on in different parts of the world currently is very much part of that we need to connect these ecosystems of
And
women
on
and
that point of connection, let's put our hearts in our mouths and see how we go. Thank you very much, Pam. And questions in a few minutes' time. We'll just go around the world, hopefully. And we're going to go to London first of all. Okay, that sounds good. So, Lenos, Stivic, Montessori. Just give us an upsum of your debate, your conversations, and some of the themes that were pulled out there.
So we had a very good debate on the issue. I think there are a couple of things that came across as clear themes and action points. One was around public conversations, that we really need to be talking about this a lot more publicly, and that those conversations involve men and women. And it's about giving women a voice publicly and not just internally. We felt that actually the time has come where we need to put some structures around the next steps. And those structures could be around regulation, they could be around policy, they could be around corporate strategies, because there's a very good business reason for doing that. We also felt that obviously, you don't have good childcare, if parents don't have the ability to feel that they've got their children in a safe space, they're not likely to go into the workforce. And that early education should be about teaching boys and girls about respect, about collaboration. And we also talked about the need for young girls to lose fear. And, the young boys sort of seem to have an ability to risk more, and that we as women need to lose that fear and not fear failure. Often failure is something that we don't experience until we get into the workforce, but actually failing is okay, and that's something that we part of our education. Teaching children, giving children the space to fail, so that as adults they have that courage to make change.
Okay, that sounds really interesting, and it actually coincides with some of the issues we've been talking about here as well. I'm not sure if you've got an audience there, but if you have, please do continue with a Q&A if there are people there to continue the debate. But for now, thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Leonard. I want to go now to Beirut, to Miriam. Miriam, can you hear me?
Come here and say that presentation. So, we had a very panel with our speakers. We spoke a lot about personal experiences, about main achievements that women here on the panel made to enhance women's rights. We spoke about about inclusion, diversity, etc. The main points that were highlighted by was the importance of adopting a center for gender equality and the importance of adopting gender policies on the government level and also on the level of companies and universities, etc. Also, we spoke about the issue of gender stereotypes and the importance of promoting gender equality starting from home. Raising our kids to be equal, to accept the equality between men and women. As I mentioned also on the importance of the role of men to support and promote female leadership, and also the importance of women supporting other women and recognizing their capacity. Also, there was an emphasis on the importance of having mainly when speaking about women's political participation. I will sit here and I will give each of the panelists 2 minutes to give us the final message, the final recommendation, or maybe a call for action, and then we will be opening the floor.
Actually, Hayat, forgive us. Can we come back to that? We have time at the end. We've just got to pick up on a few more panels around the world. If we have time, I'll come back to you. Thank you very much, Hayat. I think we can now go to Aman. Is that right?
So,
okay, Aman and Mary, can you hear me? How did your debate go?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can, and we've got you up now. Yeah, how did it go?
Great, thank you. So I've been given a summary, but I'm ignoring it, and I'm going to put the main points that I jotted down, so excuse me. I'm also going to include as part of our panel, we had our ambassador from the Netherlands and from Canada who made some interesting points. So on the Netherlands side, I think Her Excellency Barbara was talking about how confidence is so important, and we almost need to spoon feed it into the minds of our young ones, which I do with my daughter every day, by the way. And we also spoke about the support of fathers and, you know, the role that men play. And also, the ambassador mentioned that the Netherlands is also going through challenges, which made me feel a little better as a Jordanian. The ambassador from Canada was also talking about how progress when it comes to gender issues can largely be attributed to the current leadership of Canada, and that they've recently passed a gender-based budget. She spoke extensively about violence against Indigenous populations and women and girls in particular, and how that really leads to a healing process that needs to happen. She spoke to the issue of the word feminist and how that could be a more inclusive and non-binary term to use when we're talking about gender issues. Now turning to the panel, we looked at the overall context in Jordan. And here, Hala to my left was saying how there's been some progress, but she thought we would be somewhere else. She drew attention to the issue of women working in the informal sector, and how really broadly what we need is a full social transformation in mindsets in particular. A lot of the panel today was focused on our dear parliamentarian, who now we are all supporting, who will be going out to protest with. She spoke about how in 1993 we started with one lady in parliament, and now we have 20, which is about 15.4% of the parliament, and the same in Senate. But she was referring to how it's still a process. And our cabinet, for example, here started with many more women, and now we have few. And she really focused on how we need quotas in all parts of the government, so not only in parliament, but in constitutional courts and so on. We then turned to women in business. And I have a fellow leader of the private sector with me, Nadia, who's the CEO of the leading bank in Jordan. And she really spoke about the opportunity, the upside, if we were able to integrate women into the workforce and how that would ultimately lead to a growth in GDP. She spoke about the enabling environment that we need for women in businesses and how we gender-sensitive policies they institute that in the bank. So that's pay equity, anti-harassment, daycare, transportation, and she even spoke about a comeback program, which I think would be interesting to do with my business as well. And she spoke about the importance of empowering women in startups, and she had a positive outlook overall on the changes in legislation. We talked about education, and we had Haifa Najat talking about how women are essentially born empowered, but end up being disempowered through the structural systems that be, including the education system. She spoke largely about the disconnect between the cognitive and the behavioral, and how we really need to be connecting those two, and we really have to understand the Jordanian context and get out of that money-focused mindset. And we also said in the beginning, perhaps this event should take place outside of Amman next year. Should I stop?
You know, that was fantastic. It's longer than yours, but you've given us a very comprehensive run through. Thank you very much.
I have more, but I'll stop.
Okay, well maybe we'll have you here next year if we can get everyone over. I know you've got a big audience there, so continue the debate with your assembled people there. We can go to our moderator friend in Joburg at Vein Growth Solutions with your big audiences there. Talk us through your conclusions.
Right, our panel was quite robust, and the discussions were quite robust. We had insightful conversations, even from the audience, and we look at several issues during that young people hear these conversations, that we don't just have these conversations of empowerment. Young people don't have access, and how do we then ensure that we avail these conversations that they are accessible for young people. And also encouraging women all over to be fearless and take up space. And this is encouraged by our very own, I'm sure all of you are aware of it, Zoe Mitunzi, who's currently Miss Universe. And we are moving with that agenda of just encouraging women to take up space. And also encouraging women to be sisters keepers, uplifting one another, and ensuring that when you occupy a position of power, that as you rise, you lift others, that it's not just about first black, first female, first this, and not recognizing opportunities of bringing others with you. And of course, we are going to share the summary with everyone. These were just pointers that I took top of my head. As you know, technology, it's difficult to know when you're going to be crossing to us. But that's largely what we focus on. And also that we also looked at some women-created blockages in advancing women leadership, that oftentimes it's personality issues that block us from unpacking some of the opportunities that are available in order for more women to access. And lastly, we also talked about opportunities within the agricultural space, how we can create working groups in ensuring that ladies lead and Africa connects to the global space, and that leading us to just being so grateful for this opportunity that we can connect at this level as we, I guess, push the women agenda.
That is fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, and to your audience. Please continue the debate. I think we can go now to Istanbul, to Tim Bright.
Hi, thank you. We had a great discussion here as well. Really lively discussion. It's still going on, so I'm sure we'll continue. Just a quick summary of some of the points that I did panelists contributed. As well as the need for leaders, we really focused on the need for role models and the importance of role models. And in a country like Turkey, particularly in the digital space, having role models. We've had some great stories about the influence videos, online videos that women share, having a really wide range of long-term influence. And also talk about the use of technology and particularly many platforms as a strong way of influencing and positivity. And the importance of peer learning, and particularly the idea of someone being just one step ahead. So a person one step ahead of someone, help the person coming behind them. And a great slogan of one of the organizations about Panelist, so you shield it, so nice. We talked about legislation, and how legislation is designed to support women at work, can bring benefits, but also brings human problems as well. So we talked about those challenges. And some of the opportunities for flexible working as a real positive opportunity to help women. And also online resources, so the range of online education that's now available is also something particularly that can help women in sexual context. We have representatives from the education sector, and of course we talk about the importance of that, and particularly early childhood learning, with the belief that we really need to start at 3 years old. It should be equal and free, because that's the only way of imposing some of the structural gender gaps that we experience, and it needs to include education, parents, and others involved as well. And from business perspective, we also talk about pay gap and the structural reasons for pay gap, about the challenges that there are and changing over time. So the general belief of the panelists and our contributors to the audience as well was that the need for more transparency in pay, and also a general support for quotas as well, across a range of areas, including private and government sectors, as a way of really making some radical changes that we need to correct some of the differences.
Joe, that's absolutely brilliant. So many themes have been shared right around the world. You picked up much more on the online education and information side of things. I think we did in London. For now, Tim, thank you very much indeed. Finally, Karachi Ambassador Tia Mahmood. Can you hear me?
We had a very robust discussion with the very distinguished panel, and I just want a little summary that we had in the discussion. We have thought that the onus remains on the institutions and state to make sure the legislations regarding women's protection and women empowerment that have been passed, that are already existing, to be actually implemented so that women have proper protection systems. Similarly, state takes more responsibility to quell the religious fundamentalism that has severely affected the status of women in Pakistan and their empowerment. Pakistan has passed several legislations, but not enough affirmative action to push for a larger percentage of women representation in all sectors and structures in Pakistan. There are not there are legislation for women, especially for the open names, and to create such legislation is very terrorization of Pakistan, terrorization of women in Pakistan is a problem in our society, and the cultural mindset needs to be changed in this regard. There are a large demographic of women who are now asserting their rights and showing that change is happening in Pakistan, and they're also affected by the movement that defines the global challenge taking place. Women are now learning that they deserve the value they have worked hard for, both in the changing discourse and the global discussions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I'm not sure if you've got an audience there as well, but please do continue that discussion, that debate. Thank you for our technical team, by the way. Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Martine's very kindly given me a sort of quick resume of our discussion here. If you don't mind, I think we've all listened to it. I don't want you to go on and take this all the points. So should we go with some of your own questions and thoughts, perhaps with our panel here, and from some of the other issues that have been raised as well. Judy, I don't think we need a microphone, do we?
I'll speak up.
It's such a small room.
You're obviously all incredible women, and we need to have these kind of role models.
Switching up.
There we go. And I guess coming to social media, I suppose, there's an amazing opportunity for each of you to use social media to target these young girls and give them an alternative role model to look up to and learn from. My question really comes to how do we involve more men in the conversation and have it that, this room is 50% men as well next time.
Who do you want to address that question
Whoever.
Paula.
Okay. So it's a very good question, and this is something that I always ask myself as well, because every time they invite me to speak to events where we talk about women's rights, unfortunately, there are more women than men usually to listen to us, and it should be the contrary. It should be the opposite. So let's stay clear. It should be men to listen to our voices and try to understand what we feel. How do we live? Which are our challenges, daily challenges. So I think in order to gain more men in public, we should start with our own community. With our friends, with our family, with our children, with our son, with our husband, with our boyfriend, with our friends. I think this could be a good choice. And unfortunately, many times, we feel a little bit, shy. Eventually, we don't want really to ask them to come because we think they don't care, they're not very interested. But we should try harder. because every one of us has his own community. And of course, if you're an influencer in social media, you can use your public, and your social media in order to attract more men. And definitely should be good also to give men, the voice.
Elizabeth, your thoughts on that. Let's get some questions.
Yes, first of all, I think it's very important, what was raised before, that this needs to start from the family. So at a very young age, from boys and girls, this is when we need to educate, if you like, young boys that this is a world, or it should be a world, of equal opportunities and equal access. Mentoring. I think that the role of a mentor, and here among the audience and actually advisory board members of the forum, and Athena40 is my mentor, Geraldine Sharp-Newton. And so I think that the best person to respond to this question with all the wisdom that she has accumulated over her career.
Geraldine's actually got a question. So,
and I think she has an answer.
Hello, I'm on, right? Okay, over 40 years ago, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I had the opportunity to spend a day with a wonderful woman.
Can we check if the mic is on?
I see a green light. I had the opportunity to spend a day with an outstanding woman who had started a magazine called Nymphs. And one of the things that she gave me as a piece of advice, because I said to her, why am I here? I had no idea why I was there. I was just beginning in politics. I had been part of the National Youth Political Caucus. And so it was a bit closer to the mouth, thank you, sorry. But anyhow, the idea was that wherever I went in life, and where every one of us go, we always take someone else along. And that's what it's about. And when we think about the reach of what has happened today, just now, if every woman, everyone on all the panels, men and women, took someone else along with them, we will then really make progress, because then we are having the conversations, we are mentoring, we are giving advice, we are accomplishing something. And so I think it's incredibly important, excuse me. So I don't have a question, that's my statement.
Thank you very much.
I'm calling on everyone to act.
If I may, we have two sons who are 21 and 17.
Yeah.
And I think one of the strangest moments was several years ago. My eldest son, it was Women's Day, and we were talking about it, and he asked when's Men's Day, and it wasn't sarcasm, it wasn't whatever, it was just women have a day, men should have a day, because he couldn't see why women needed to have a day, because at that point he was living in a house, I guess, with two moms who are out there making movies, working, whatever. To him, there was no inequality gap. He just didn't see the point. So
Which is encouraging.
Which is encouraging, and I think there's potential. Now he's at Bureau College, and there are no girls in his electronic engineering class, maybe two out of the entire year. So I think, unfortunately, as he's gotten older, he's understood that there is more need for these kinds of works. But the potential is there if the role models are there, and if we all take our immediate family along with us to start with.
Vicky? Yeah, I just want to time.
Yeah, sorry, I'll be very quick. It's more of it's actually a call to action, this International Women's Day, because it's fantastic. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, March is full of events as far as I'm concerned, so let's make it International Women's Month. Just as a sort of a call to action, and exactly speaking to your point in terms of women on this panel, but also you yourselves. I mean, every one of you is a role model to girls out there who might be interested in getting into your particular field, or interested in your story and your journey of how you got to where you are. So we, Inspiring Girls, have got a video hub, and anyone can upload a video onto it talking about themselves and their career journey. And to your point about sharing it with boys and girls, those videos are being used all over the world in the work we do. So you will be seen by both little boys and little girls, and show them that actually not only the girls who might follow in your footsteps, but also boys who may be walking alongside them in the future.
That's good. Just on Neil College. So a question from a man, maybe along the same lines.
6 years ago, my daughter Lily was told injudiciously to give up French by a teacher, as she could never speak it properly. She was upset, so I shared the story of my friend Julian, who was expelled from my village for having feet too small and not enough talent, only to be handpicked 10 years later to dance with Eric McCullough on stage at Covent Garden. Just the two of them. Whoever dreams of great achievements in life will always encounter small thinkers who will look at those dreams. The tragedy is, so many people take this to heart and give up. Who knows how many more Elizabeths, Annabelles, Yaminas, Mark Ventrescas, Nicola Horlicks could have been, but for surrendering to the poison of discouragement. The lesson Julian understood, that Lily is starting to understand, and every lady on stage understands, is the only response to discouragement should ever be, step aside, I'm doing it anyway, and I'm going to win.
Good. Yeah, Mike. Sorry. So
it's actually the point. It shows how important mentoring is. If you also or other people who've had similar experiences, it's someone to talk to who understand these issues and tell them exactly what you said. Carry on, and that is it's a pretty common thing to happen. Everyone thinks it's just them. And they therefore react thinking I'm no good and so on. And it goes back to some of this confidence issue and how you build it up, families and so on. But it's also quite interesting about possibilities and potential that people have. And the interesting thing that we found when I was working with government, we had this enterprise initiative where companies would go in and talk about starting your own business to school children between the ages of 14 and 16. It's quite interesting because the extraordinary thing is that after those courses, the boys were twice as likely to want to take risks and start a business. The girls were 4 times as likely, which suggests that they were starting from a much lower base, where they didn't have that confidence. So I'm afraid, you need that mentoring or someone to turn to all along. But the social media can do it. It's quite difficult to imagine how, given everything else that's out there, because unfortunately what my daughters feel all along is that they have to be perfect in every respect, just the way they look, but good mothers, good workers, good everything. So, and if you actually get mentored to be told, don't try and be perfect, but everything you do, just, do it okay, and then focus on some of the things that you can really excel in as well, and don't worry too much if the others aren't perfect, then I think we would all be great.
Okay, I've got a few more questions. Yes, you.
My name is Julia Shilkova. Thank you very much to the panel for a fantastic and very insightful discussion. I have a question around the female leadership qualities and whether along the journey and on the way to become women leaders, we discovered that women bring different qualities to the table, and whether the nature of the conversation changes when there are more women in the boardroom. And also I'd like to ask, who are your role models, women who have inspired you on your journey?
Let's go around down the line on that, starting with you, Vicky. We've got just a couple more questions that I want to go through. Who's your role model first?
Oh, well, it's my mum. I think that's what people say, isn't it? It is my mum, and she. I think just being told is going back to those points. Is really being constantly told, and I'm doing my best now with an 8-year-old daughter. Being constantly that messaging, being told that it is possible, that you can do it, that you can succeed, that you should follow the things that you're passionate about. I think it's just it's easier said than done. And your other point was about female leadership and the qualities. I struggle with this one a little bit, if I'm honest. I have a strong belief. It was based out of some research I read about 5 years ago about people, the best leaders. It's about how you lead, not who you lead. And I really strongly believe in some of the best leaders that I know and some of the best leaders that I respect create in a team a sense of what they termed psychological safety, which is this ability to take risks. And it is this ability to make mistakes and feel confident making mistakes and be comfortable asking for things like flexible working and different ways of doing things and offering new ideas. In my experience, I believe that women that I've worked with have been more able to create that environment within a team. I think it would be very interesting to see some stuff. I'm certainly not aware of it, but they may well be out there. Some studies about whether that is actually a uniquely female trait or whether or not our working culture has not allowed that to be the norm to date.
Okay, your
role models first. Well, I have been blessed.
You mentioned one.
I have been blessed with incredible mentors in my life. And first of all, I would say that both my parents have been incredible role models for me. But really, I mentioned Geraldine before, really the women that I had the fortune to come across through the work that we do at the GPF, and I mean that, are role models for me. All of you, what you do, I'm learning. Every single day I'm being inspired and I'm learning. Now, when it comes to the second question, which is about female qualities, what I would say is that women, we combine reason with emotional intelligence in a way that you do not often find it in male thinking. And so there is a word which is known in English, the word nous. It is a Greek word. It's the word nous. And what the ancient Greek philosophers meant to say with this word is a connection between the soul and the mind. So that connection is what, if you like, helps us base our thinking and our decision making on values.
And so I think that this part, the fact that we are being and can be more compassionate and more understanding in a world that is very complex and very uncertain is a quality that the world can build up.
Yamina?
Well, I have to agree with that because if I go back to right after the genocide in Rwanda, the women were not only organizers, but they were peacemakers. So they were put in positions of power because they had the ability to forgive faster than men had. And that's the reason also. But it has served us well because we have managed to move past the hurt and the issues to organize for a better future. So I think there's a bit of that. In a sense, women think beyond self. You have to think family, community, and a nation as we move forward. So those qualities are there. It's just a matter of how do you apply it, even in the private sector or whichever field for that. But they bring that quality of thinking community versus individualism.
And your role model?
My mother.
My role model is my wife Hannah, who's sitting right here, which is not why I picked her. Because I was brought up in quite a relatively rigid Muslim household, and there was kind of an expectation that you either become a doctor, a dentist, or you marry one. You know, you kind of do that. And she kind of made that okay for me to question the basis of religion, which was kind of restricting my thought process. And also, to make it okay that I could spend my days making up stuff about people that don't exist and then make money out of them. So that was good. And then I think that working in the film industry has been really interesting. And I think value-based leadership is very important because it's a world where a lot of actors and actresses will come up to me and say, "Oh, it's so great that there's a director that doesn't scream and shout and throw their weight around." And I'm like, "Well, why would you do that if you're actually trying to get the best out of people?" And when actors are on the set and they're feeling very fragile because they're being emotionally available to do a scene, you kind of want to keep that calmness and there. Not to say that there are not men that do that. And I just wonder if it's social constructs that make the men feel they have to also go to that, and it's not necessarily something we just say is male. And maybe there are sensitive men who are emotionally intelligent, just are not getting ahead because of the way that our society is structured.
Okay,
When I was younger, I wasn't really blessed with role models or mentors who were women, but one of my role models was my professor. He was a man, but I decided I wanted to become as powerful and as intelligent and well connected as he was. So I think it was a good idea anyway, if it was a man. And now that I'm grown up, I have many role models every day when I read and I see the stories of these incredible women. And now I mentioned the most famous one, like Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres, or Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, or Hillary Clinton. I'm always inspired by them. And then when I think about female leadership, I'm sure that there are certain qualities that make our leadership outstanding. And we need more female leadership because we are more compassionate, as everybody was saying. We are more diplomatic, we are more empathetic, and these are qualities that women generally cherish the most. Of course, I'm not talking about women who are trying to imitate men, because that's the wrong strategy in life. So the good thing is that we need more diversity and we need these qualities in order to create better leaders, not only better women, but also better men leaders.
Okay, last Vicky, and then we have one more question. I think, actually, how many more questions we got? Fine, okay, so good Vicky.
On the economics front, unfortunately, only 16% of professors in economics are women in this country, similar in the US and in Europe. Actually, for some reason, it doesn't quite seem to work, even though they do very well in the exams. So there's a big issue there to look up to. And my role models have been all male. They mainly because they saw and pushed me forward as the value of having a woman. They couldn't quite see why there should be any discrimination at all, or they were impressed because I had so many children as they work, that sort of stuff. Which I don't mind why, but the important thing is that they really pushed me forward. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. In terms of role models more generally, because I talk a lot in schools, girls' schools, and and boys' schools and mixed schools. And one of the questions I once had recently was, so is Theresa May a role model for us, said a girl. And of course I gulped. And I said, well, actually, she's a role model because she shows that you can all become prime minister if you wanted to. It doesn't mean you have to follow and do what she does, but there is an aspect of it which is very good. I think they brought that. In terms of leadership qualities, the interesting thing is that, again, there seem to be differences in the way we operate and do things, as we've been hearing a little bit here too. And quite a lot of psychologists and others have sort of worked on this. So we bring a bit of balance in any sort of environment that's out there, because we then perhaps to take slightly fewer risks, perhaps we're going to think a bit more logically about things, because we're also not over exuberant, over optimistic that we can beat the market, and we know the well you can't beat the market all the time, everybody. So what the IMF has calculated is that, his conclusion from a lot of analysis is that if the women were in charge of monetary policy committees and central banks at the time of the financial crisis or before that, we would not have had a financial crisis of the type we have now, because we would have been much more cautious in what we do. And finally, in terms of qualities, what I find works best, absolutely best, is have people working for you who are cleverer and better than you. Don't worry about the consequences, because you will all shine together.
Fantastic. Again, last question.
Hello, Rita Payne, Chair from the Journalists Association UK. We heard how young women should be taught not to fear failure. Can any of the panelists give an example of a situation where they failed at something and have managed to overcome it, which has led to greater success in another area, perhaps?
Can we keep another question? Last question. Can we just keep it quite brief? Let's start with you, Shashi.
I'm a writer. Any right at the time, they've never had rejection sort of a liar. So I mean, it's I guess it's just endemic in certainly what I do. So I think there's that. It's always painful, and I think some of that is just persistence and gaining that. I think maybe I'm a bit luckier in my field. You're set up to assume that it's going to take a bit of time. But there have been many times when I just sort of said, okay, we're still after this movie and after that success, having to go back to, but it is the nature of it. And I think if you love what you do and you're focused on mastery of it, I think the fear of failure becomes less, because you know that your ultimate goal is just to get good at what you're doing and not to win this time around.
Yeah, Mina?
Well, I think we all have failed professionally. You get an idea, you think it's great, you do your research, you do your presentation, you go to your supervisor, they look at you and say, no. So you go back and you try again. But again, it's been a process. It's, I said, learning from a young age that you must fail to succeed. That's something my mother told me constantly, and my father as well. Getting the wrong grades and thinking this is it. I remember even saying to my father one day, I said, maybe I should just find a husband. And he looked at me and said, no, you will go on and get your degree and then move forward. So I think it's preparing our youngsters that failure is part of it as well. It's not a walk in the park, by the way. I think we didn't touch so much on the sacrifices and the preparation part of it, because any leader will tell you will fail more times than you will succeed.
Did I mention I worked in politics? I've got the proud badge of never having been a member of a winning campaign team. And I've worked on a lot of elections.
Would you go work for Donald Trump? Right about now? Maybe you could bring
although I definitely think he's going to win, sadly. I think every time that happens, it feels a little glib to say, but I think I've had a huge learning curve every single time. I think losing has brought me something else which has propelled me into another opportunity, or I can definitely look back on it with a little bit of recovery time and say that, you know, I met some amazing people, you know, on a campaign. Or I've been, you know, I've had the privilege of working with these incredible candidates, the amount of resilience that it takes to be a parliamentary candidate and just lose and lose and lose and bounce back and stand again. Is quite incredible. I'm watching the American elections with absolute fascination of all these you know, these people that have raised huge amounts of money and built huge campaigns, just then deciding they're out. And I have a real empathy with them because I just think, wow, what that must take. And you know, you pick yourself up, you brush yourself down, you sort of take, you ideally you take those learning lessons with you. But I do agree. I think dealing with the pain, that immediate pain of failure, is something that children, I'm afraid, my 8-year-old certainly needs a lot of help dealing with.
I personally don't like the word failure, and I think we should also try to clarify exactly what we define, you know, this word. Personally, I think we are on the learning moments when things can go wrong, but you just have to learn from, you know, this things that are going wrong and try to find another strategy and keep going and love yourself. So the most important thing is loving yourself. Personally, I had many, I think about, you know, I was a young mother, just finished university. I sent my CV, I remember, to almost 2,000 industries in Italy at the time. I got 0 interviews, but not because I wasn't worth it, of course, and I knew that, thank God, because I was a young mother, and in Italy no one was hiring a young mother. And so I just decided to change strategy, and then I went to a master's degree, and then one of my professors put me into politics, and then some lecturers went, well, others no, but it was a failure. No, it was just a learning curve. I loved what I was doing, and I believed in the principle that were moving me, so I was doing this no matter what, you know. It's not the final result that defines you, it's a journey. So yeah, never be afraid and just forget about this word.
Well, yes, I've had some terrible ups and downs, some really, really downs. And one can talk about resilience, but actually the thing that allows you to come back is some of the stuff we've just been talking about, is the networks. It's the people who you have helped before or who believe that you have given your life to them, the people you have pushed forward. And that is what works. And I advise all girls I mentor, and I don't also mentor some boys, to network as widely as possible and to be open and accepting other people's views as they move up in their careers and in life, because it enriches it, first of all, and second, you never know where you're going in the future.
Fantastic. And a final word from you, Elizabeth.
Did you hear me?
Yes.
We have to deal with small setbacks, failures, and downtimes, if you like, on a daily basis in our lives. Family, personal matters, professional, career. On a daily basis, there will be a struggle. I think that the two elements that, if you like, change the whole landscape for a woman or a man or any person for that matter is perseverance, resilience, and passion. So if you have these 3 elements, there's no way that you will not succeed in whatever you set your mind to do in life. So that's been my approach to life, and this is how the forum and Athena40 has come to life and has grown. I've had a number of setbacks on a daily basis, but nothing stops me if I feel that, you know, this is something that will bring value to, you know, some women, some people out there. I just keep going.
Perseverance, passion, and ability, as we've seen from our panel here and indeed our panels all around the world, some of whom I think are still taking part in debates now. It's been a really interesting debate. Once again, thank you, all the technical people, fantastically done after a bumpy start. Thank you for our panelists. Thank you for Elizabeth for arranging this again for the second year running. Thank you.